Brussels have become a swamp where unelected bureaucrats are going to utilize their vision of a European federalized superstate. And we have to stop that. That's why our campaign promise today is that we will begin by firing 10,000 bureaucrats in Brussels.
You just heard from a prominent figure in the Identity and Democracy group, the EU's most right-wing populist gang, known for their Eurosceptic vibes and tough stance on migration. Here's the deal. The ID Squad is made up of members of the European Parliament from all over Europe. It's like a team-up of national parties from different corners of the EU, all sharing similar right-wing populist ideas. Now there are 9 national parties that are part of the ID crew. League from Italy, National Rally from France, AFD from Germany, the Freedom Party from Austria, Vlaams Belang from Belgium, the Conservative People's Party from Estonia, the Danish People's Party from Denmark, Freedom and Direct Democracy from Czechia, and the Party for Freedom from the Netherlands. So if you vote for any of these parties back home, it's kind of like giving the thumbs up for IND's grand plan for Europe. And that's why this video is so important. We're here to break down what they're all about. But to be honest with you, this is where it gets really hard. You see, there's no fancy manifesto from the IND, nor a detailed priority list on their website. And they don't even have a lead candidate with a vision and some solid policy ideas. But I contacted the IND group directly, and they were very helpful, running me through some of their ideas for Europe. It was still a bit light on the detail, but let's use it as a starting point to fill in our table with the usual 6 areas. First up, defense. The IND party is saying a firm no to the idea of a European army. They believe it's all part of the EU's big plan for centralization, which they're not keen on. They do support voluntary cooperation in the member states, allowing for greater interoperability of their military systems. Now, when it comes to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the IND group officially stands by Ukraine's right to sovereignty and its right to ask countries for assistance. But no more detail than that was provided. Moving on to migration, the IND group wants to stop illegal migration by strengthening EU border control, which includes building border fences. They want to collaborate with third countries so that asylum procedures are managed there, outside of the EU. Asylum can then be granted over there, nearer to the migrant's country of origin. The IND insists that member states should have full sovereignty over managing their own borders, leading us to question how this could be achieved without modifying the Schengen Agreement. Next up, we have climate change and energy.
But how will you ensure that the EU will meet its climate goals?
I'm not going to. That's the simple fact of the matter. The EU policy is only doing one thing. It's shifting jobs out of Europe. If Europe wants to really make a green transition, we have to focus on innovation and market-ready models, not state subsidies.
The IND say that they want to address climate policies with pragmatism. They encourage investments in renewable energy sources, but want to give the member states the freedom to choose their national energy mix. They support technological neutrality and want to reduce European dependency on third countries. Regarding economic policies, the IND opposes EU taxes and aims to establish regulations on anti-money laundering and terrorist financing. They advocate for boosting the competitiveness of European companies by eliminating what they describe as useless green obligations. In terms of social issues, most parties within the IND group criticize the prevailing woke culture and advocate for a return to traditional family values. The IND feels that the majority of social issues are a matter of national responsibility though. Regarding EU reform and enlargement, the IND group opposes the concept of a centralized European Union, often referred to as a superstate or federal state. They advocate for reducing the power of the European Commission and returning authority to the EU member states. They also oppose the elimination of the veto vote and are very skeptical of EU enlargement. Additionally, they oppose the use of the rule of law as a tool against member states and advocate for the primacy of national law over EU law.
We have to be proud of our culture. We have to be proud of our identities. We have to be proud to have nation states that have been in the past and are now today the center of democracy.
Speaking of pride in our identities and history, have you ever wondered about your own family's past? This brings me to today's sponsor, MyHeritage, a true game changer. I started by simply entering information about my parents and grandparents, and whoop, there it was. I discovered my great-grandparents and many generations further back. The process was so easy, even with little family information to start with, as MyHeritage has over 19 billion historical records to work with. I also stumbled upon some astonishing facts. I always thought my family was entirely European. But guess what? I found out that I have ancestors who have roots in Turkey and Indonesia. Looks like the Dutch colonial past to Indonesia wasn't just a chapter in the history books, but a part of my own family story. Who knew? And check this out. I uploaded this old family photo to MyHeritage. Their tool let me repair, colorize, enhance, and even animate it. It's like bringing back my family's history into the present. If you're curious about your family's past, I highly recommend MyHeritage. It's more than just building a family tree. It's discovering part of yourself. And there's something super exciting. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial to explore the vast resources of MyHeritage. So start your journey into your family's past today and find the link in the description. So, this is an overview of the IND's plans. To put it simply, these seem to be the only points the IND group can agree on. It is really no secret that finding common ground is a challenge for the right-wing populists within the IND group. This is clearly demonstrated by the ongoing dispute between two key players, Alice Weidel's AFD and Marine Le Pen's National Rally. For instance, there's this recent Mayotte situation. Mayotte is a tiny island in the Indian Ocean, part of France, yet it's way over there. The AFD suggested France should give control of Mayotte to Comoros, a nearby African state. Steering controversy, Le Pen shut it down quickly, saying that the AFD should focus on German issues. Another thing that rubbed Le Pen the wrong way was the AFD's remigration plan, which basically aimed to kick out foreigners, even those with a German passport. Le Pen was like, no thanks, because being associated with that kind of extreme idea doesn't exactly help her party's image makeover. She's been working very hard to make National Rally seem more mainstream. The AFD has plenty more radical ideas that don't jive well with the other parties in their group. For one, they're not big fans of the EU and think it's beyond fixing.
Ja, ich bin kein Freund der Europäischen Union. Das ist eine Globalisierungsinstanz und Agentur, die vor allen Dingen den deutschen Nettozahlern das Geld aus der Tasche zieht, ohne dass wir einen großen Nutzen davon haben, die vielfältige europäische Kultur gleichschaltet. Es gibt viele gute Gründe, jenseits der Kostengründe, diese EU abzulehnen. Sie bringt Europa nicht weiter. Und diese EU muss sterben, damit das wahre Europa leben kann. Da bin ich überzeugt, ja.
If leaving isn't an option, then they're keen to abolish the European Parliament. They think it's undemocratic, because the members aren't all directly elected by the people. And this really confuses us at the EU Made Simple. Aren't we voting for the European Parliament on June the 9th? And get this, they're talking about bringing back the good old Deutsche Mark, saying bye-bye to the euro. Yes, that's a big move that's not supported by many of the other right-wing populist parties, at least not officially. National Rally and League also used to be in favor of leaving the EU and ditching the Eurozone. However, in recent times, they've toned down their rhetoric in an effort to align more with mainstream politics. Their approach differs from the AFD's. They lean towards reforming the EU from within, rather than leaving it altogether. And most IND group parties align with National Rally and League. But outliers like the PVV in the Netherlands and the SPD in the Czech Republic lean towards the AFD, also supporting EU membership referendums. The PVV from the Netherlands opposes being a net contributor to the EU budget and calls for removing all EU flags from public buildings. Now, what about Ukraine? Well, the AFD is quite clear in their manifesto. They want to restore uninterrupted trade with Russia, lift economic sanctions, stop military support to Ukraine, and repair the Nord Stream pipelines. While Le Pen has publicly condemned Russia's actions in Ukraine, her party's voting record also reveals opposition to sanctions and military aid. And she recently abstained from voting on a French security agreement with Ukraine. So while all these positions are extreme, the AFD takes it a step further. But there is one thing that these parties definitely do have in common: ties to Russia. The National Rally, AFD, and League Party have all shown admiration for Russian President Putin and pushed for closer connections with Russia. Some reports even suggest they've received financial support from Russian sources, though the details are partially still up to debate and investigation. And as if that wasn't enough, the AFD once again takes it a step further, with links to China too. Their lead candidate for the EU elections, Maximilian Krah, had an employee for 5 years who got caught spying for China in the European Parliament. Of course, Krah is now playing the I didn't know card. but it is a bit hard to swallow, especially as authorities have now started looking into whether Kra received payments from both Russia and China for his work as an MEP.
And we are the true patriots. We are the only one that can save Europe. Maybe not the European Union, but we can save Europe. We can make Europe great again.
And that wraps up the overview of the IND's plans. We're super excited to bring you a series of 7 videos, each dedicated to a different political group in the European Parliament. You can check out the Liberal Renew Europe group here, or the center-right EPP here. And if you're passionate about helping us spread knowledge on the EU, consider joining our Patreon community. Until next time.